The golden probe tumbled through the darkness between stars, its metal surface scarred by millions of years of cosmic dust. Inside its ancient memory, mathematical formulas waited alongside images of humans, recordings of music, and maps showing where Earth waited in the galaxy. The Remnari science vessel detected it by pure chance during a routine mapping mission near the edge of explored space. Dr. Henna pressed her thin fingers against the display screen, her large eyes widening as the translation algorithms worked through the probe's contents. Around her, 3 other scientists crowded closer, their breathing rapid with excitement. They had found something incredible. Something terrible. These poor creatures, Henna whispered. Her voice carried the musical quality typical of her species, but sadness weighed down each note. Look at their world. The radiation levels alone should have killed them generations ago. The data painted a horrifying picture. The planet's star bombarded its surface with deadly rays. Gravity measurements showed a crushing force nearly 3 times what most civilized species considered survivable. The atmosphere contained oxygen at concentrations that would ignite fires from the smallest spark. Vast oceans covered much of the surface, deep and dark and filled with massive predators. The land itself shifted and cracked, spewing molten rock that consumed everything nearby. How are they still alive? One scientist asked, his voice shaking. Henna pulled up images from the probe. Bipedal creatures stood on 2 legs, their faces showing clear signs of stress. Their bodies appeared fragile, covered in thin skin rather than proper protective shells or scales. Medical scans revealed bones that seemed far too weak for such high gravity. Their internal organs looked primitive, vulnerable to the countless dangers their world presented. They sent this as a distress call, Henna said with certainty. These images, this data, they're showing us their suffering, begging for help. Within hours, the discovery reached the Remnari High Council. Elder Porthan reviewed the evidence in his meditation chamber, feeling his heart's break for these distant strangers. The Remnari had built their civilization on principles of compassion and aid. They had helped dozens of species reach the stars. They had ended famines, stopped plagues, and brought peace to warring worlds. This would be their greatest rescue mission yet. How many do we think survive on this world? Porthan asked Henna during the emergency council session. Billions, Elder. The electromagnetic emissions suggest a planetary civilization, but one struggling against constant catastrophe. We believe they cluster in massive structures for protection, though even these seem inadequate against their environment. Porthan made his decision quickly. Assemble our humanitarian fleet. Every available rescue ship, every medical facility we can spare. We will not let these beings suffer another day. Commander Talus received his orders with pride swelling in his chest. His fleet of 200 vessels would carry enough supplies to evacuate millions. They would offer these suffering creatures a new home on gentler worlds, places where they could finally know peace. His crew prepared with solemn dedication, knowing they traveled toward a world of horrors. The journey took 3 weeks through faster-than-light corridors. During that time, Talus studied everything they knew about the humans. The probe had included sounds they made, which translators struggled to interpret. Some scientists thought the harsh, varied noises indicated pain. Others believed they represented primitive communication attempts. Either way, the sounds confirmed how desperate these beings must be. Henna spent those weeks designing evacuation procedures. Humans would need special low-gravity environments to recover from their ordeal. Their bodies would require careful treatment to heal from radiation damage. Psychological support would be essential after generations of trauma. She assembled detailed care plans, determined that not a single human would be lost during the rescue. As the fleet emerged from their final jump, Earth filled their viewing screens. The planet looked beautiful from orbit, swirled with white clouds and blue oceans. But Talus knew better. Beauty often hid danger. Those clouds contained violent storms. Those oceans hid crushing depths. The green and brown continents writhed with hostile life. Scan for population centers, Talus ordered. We need evacuation priorities. The results shocked everyone. Massive structures covered the planet's surface, connected by intricate networks. Millions of energy signatures blazed across every continent. These humans had built far more than anyone expected, but Talus understood. Desperate beings often built elaborate defenses against their environment. These structures probably represented centuries of struggle, generations fighting just to survive another day. Send the universal greeting, Talus commanded. Let them know help has arrived. Tell them they're safe now. Tell them they can finally leave this terrible place. The message transmitted on every frequency. Mathematics and simple images conveyed their peaceful intent. Pictures showed Remnari vessels alongside happy aliens living on paradise worlds. The meaning seemed clear enough that even primitive beings would understand. Then Earth replied. Military satellites locked onto the fleet. Weapon systems activated across the planet. Ships launched from the surface, primitive but numerous, swarming toward the Remnari vessels like angry insects. Defensive grids powered up, painting the fleet with targeting sensors. They're attacking us, Talus's tactical officer shouted, disbelief clear in his voice. No, Henna said from her medical bay, staring at the biological readings now flooding in from the planet. They're defending themselves. But from what? We came to save them. Talus watched Earth's military might reveal itself and felt cold fear settle over him. These weren't the desperate survivors they expected. These were warriors. These were predators. These were beings who had not merely survived their nightmare world but had conquered it. Open communication channels, Talus ordered, his voice steady despite his growing dread. We need to explain before this escalates further. They don't understand we're here to rescue them. But in the command centers across Earth, human commanders saw only one thing. An alien fleet had arrived unannounced in their space, and whether they came in peace or war, humanity would be ready. The Deathworlders were home, and they would not go quietly. Reese Walker had been reviewing supply reports when every alarm in the Coalition headquarters started screaming at once. Her tablet clattered to the floor as she sprinted toward the command center, her heart pounding against her ribs. Around her, hundreds of officers rushed to their stations, faces tight with controlled panic. In her 15 years of service, the Global Defense Network had never gone to full alert. The main display showed 200 unknown vessels holding position just beyond the moon's orbit. Their designs looked nothing like human engineering, all smooth curves and flowing lines that seemed to bend light around their edges. Beautiful, in a way that made them even more threatening. What do they want? Admiral Liu demanded, his weathered face illuminated by dozens of screens showing military installations around the world, spinning up to combat readiness. They're broadcasting something, a communications officer reported. Mathematics, mostly. Some kind of pictographs. It's repeating on every frequency. Reese pushed through the crowd to study the decoded message. Simple images showed alien figures standing next to what might be humans, all of them appearing happy under gentler suns. More images depicted ships moving between planets. The final image showed aliens and humans together on a green world that definitely was not Earth. They want us to leave Earth, Reese said slowly, her mind racing through possibilities. They're offering to take us somewhere else. An invasion disguised as charity, Liu suggested, his hand already moving toward launch authorization codes. Or genuine misunderstanding, Reese countered, though she kept her voice low. She had trained for first contact scenarios, studied every theoretical framework. Nothing had prepared her for this moment. We need to respond carefully. One wrong move starts a war we might not survive. While Earth's leaders argued about proper responses, pilot Nina Cross suited up in a fighter bay beneath Colorado. Around her, mechanics rushed to arm interceptors that had been designed to shoot down missiles, not alien spacecraft. Nina had flown combat missions in 3 different conflicts, survived engine failures and enemy fire. But her hands trembled as she climbed into her cockpit. All wings. Ready for launch, came the order through her helmet. Rules of engagement, defensive posture only. Do not fire unless fired upon. Make them understand this is our planet. Nina's fighter screamed into the upper atmosphere alongside 200 others, afterburners painting bright lines across the sky. Through her canopy, she could see the alien fleet growing larger, their vessels hanging like silver moons against the stars. Her targeting computer tried to lock onto them and failed. Whatever material they used, human sensors struggled to get solid readings. They're moving, someone reported over the squadron channel. 30 vessels breaking formation. They're heading toward North America. Aboard his flagship, Talus watched Earth's defensive response with growing confusion and horror. These humans had launched attack craft within minutes of detecting his fleet. Their weapons seemed primitive, burning chemical fuels instead of using proper antimatter drives, but the sheer number of them created a concerning swarm. More troubling were the energy readings from the planet's surface. Massive weapons pointed toward space, each one capable of creating destructive yields that would devastate his ships. Why are they fighting us? Talus asked Henna through the communication link. We've made our intentions clear. We're here to save them. Perhaps they've been enslaved, Henna suggested, studying biological readings from the approaching fighters. Inside each craft, a single human operated complex machinery while pulling acceleration forces that should have crushed their fragile bodies. Some faction might control them, forcing them to remain on this terrible world. We may need to extract them against their will for their own safety. Talus made a decision he would regret for the rest of his life. Send rescue shuttles to the major population centers. We'll evacuate civilians directly, while their military wastes time posturing. Once we save enough of them, the rest will understand. 30 Remnari rescue shuttles descended toward Earth, their hulls designed to withstand atmospheric entry on harsh worlds. They headed for New York, Beijing, Mumbai, São Paulo, cities where billions of humans clustered together in towering structures. Inside each shuttle, medical teams prepared to treat the radiation poisoning and gravity damage they expected to find. Nina's fighter group intercepted the shuttles over the Atlantic Ocean. The alien craft moved slowly, almost gently, making no aggressive maneuvers. They ignored targeting locks and warning shots fired across their paths. They simply continued toward the coastline, toward cities filled with millions of people who had no idea whether these visitors came in peace or planned conquest. Fire for effect, the order came through. Disable those vessels before they reach populated areas. Missiles streaked from Nina's wings, following dozens more from her squadron. The weapons struck alien shields that flared bright blue, absorbing impacts that would have shattered human aircraft. But the shields weakened with each hit. 2 shuttles veered off course, trailing smoke from damaged engines. 1 shuttle ignored all damage and continued toward New York, descending through clouds with determined purpose. Inside that shuttle, a Remnari rescue team leader named Pell watched his shields fail and felt determination harden into certainty. These humans were clearly enslaved by a militaristic faction. The attacking craft probably belonged to warlords who kept their people trapped on this hellish world. Well, the Remnari did not abandon beings in need, no matter how their oppressors resisted. Prepare for emergency evacuation procedures, Pell ordered. We're going to save as many as we can before their military forces us to retreat. The shuttle landed in Central Park, crushing trees under its weight. Ramps extended. Remnari medics rushed out, carrying portable medical equipment designed for mass casualty events. They found themselves facing hundreds of humans who had gathered to watch the landing, most of them holding up small devices to record everything. Please remain calm, Pell broadcast through translators. We are here to rescue you from this terrible place. Follow us to the shuttle. We will take you somewhere safe. Somewhere without this crushing gravity and deadly radiation. The humans stared. Some laughed. Others shouted questions in languages the translators struggled to process. None of them moved toward the shuttle. None of them appeared grateful or relieved. They looked confused, even amused. Then the military arrived. Soldiers surrounded the park, weapons raised but not firing. An officer approached under a white flag, her face hidden behind a helmet visor. You need to leave, Reese Walker said, her voice broadcast through speakers. This is Earth, this is our home. We don't need rescue. We don't want rescue. You are not welcome here. Pell listened to the translation and felt his understanding of the situation collapse. These humans lived here willingly. They defended this nightmare world by choice. They had misunderstood everything. In orbit, Talus received reports from all 30 shuttles. Hostile response. No evacuations completed. Human military forces converging on every landing site. The fleet scientists frantically analyzed new data, and slowly, horrifyingly, the truth emerged. Humans were not victims of their world. They were products of it. Apex predators shaped by the harshest environment any spacefaring species had ever encountered. Their fragile appearance hid incredible strength. Their primitive technology masked sophisticated understanding. Their defensive aggression reflected thousands of generations learning to fight or die. Recall all shuttles immediately, Talus ordered. Prepare a formal apology and request for diplomatic contact. We have made a terrible mistake. But Earth's military watched the alien fleet regroup and saw only invaders driven back from their first assault. Admiral Liu authorized defensive positions around all major cities. Fighter patrols doubled, ground forces mobilized. Humanity had just learned they were not alone in the universe, and the first aliens they met had tried to kidnap them. Reese stood in the park, watching the alien shuttle prepare for launch. and knew with sick certainty that this first contact had gone horribly wrong. Misunderstanding had built upon misunderstanding. Fear had met fear. Now two species stared at each other across an invisible line, neither understanding the other, both preparing for conflict neither truly wanted. The Deathworlders had just introduced themselves to the galaxy, and the galaxy was terrified. The Galactic Council chamber had witnessed 10,000 years of peaceful deliberation, but nothing in its long history compared to the chaos that erupted when the Remnari presented their findings about humanity. Representatives from 43 species shouted over each other, their various methods of communication creating a cacophony that translation systems struggled to process. In the viewing galleries, journalists from across known space recorded everything. Knowing this moment would define the next era of galactic civilization, Counselor Yvonne, whose species had helped found the Council 6 millennia ago, raised 3 of her limbs for silence. The gesture carried enough authority that the chamber gradually quieted. Her crystalline body reflected light and patterns that conveyed both wisdom and deep concern. "Let us review what we know with clear minds," Yvonne said, her voice resonating through the chamber. The Remnari encountered what they believed was a distress signal. They attempted a rescue mission. The humans of Earth rejected this rescue with military force. Now we must decide how the galaxy responds to a species we never knew existed until 3 days ago. Henna stood at the presentation podium, her small frame dwarfed by the massive chamber. She had not slept since returning from Earth, spending every moment analyzing data that overturned everything she thought she understood about biology and evolution. Now she had to share those findings with leaders who would decide humanity's fate. "These are humans in their natural habitat," Henna said, projecting images captured during the brief time Remnari shuttles had been on Earth. The footage showed humans engaged in activities that made several council members gasp audibly. "This female is running for recreation. She is traveling at speeds that would exhaust most species within minutes. She maintains this pace for over 2 hours in Earth's crushing gravity." More images followed, each one more disturbing than the last. Humans climbing vertical rock faces using only their appendages, suspended hundreds of meters above ground with minimal safety equipment. Humans diving deep underwater without breathing apparatus, their bodies somehow processing oxygen debt that should have caused brain damage. Humans consuming capsaicin in concentrations that registered as chemical weapons, apparently for enjoyment. "This activity is called contact sports," Henna continued, showing humans deliberately colliding with each other at high speeds. "They do this for entertainment. Notice how they recover from impacts that would shatter Remnari bones. Their healing factor repairs this damage within weeks, sometimes within days." A council member from the Haldren species stood, his armored body bristling with obvious aggression. War leader Dren had commanded military forces for 3 decades, and he recognized predatory capability when he saw it. His species had evolved on a harsh world by galactic standards, but even Haldren considered Earth's environment unsurvivable. "These creatures are weapons," Dren declared, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Look at their eyes. Forward-facing, designed for hunting. Look at their teeth, designed for tearing flesh. Look at their bodies, built for endurance hunting. They evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They are persistence predators on a planetary scale." Henna wanted to argue, but honesty forced her to nod. "Every biological indicator suggests humanity evolved as apex predators. Their planet contains multiple species that would be classified as dangerous on any civilized world. Humans not only survive alongside these threats, they hunt them. For sport, for food, sometimes simply for the challenge." Ambassador David Sterling sat in the human delegation box, listening to aliens discuss his species like specimens in a laboratory. The Council had granted Earth observer status 3 days ago, allowing human representatives to witness the debate but not participate. David found the restriction frustrating but understandable. Humanity was on trial, and they did not yet know the charges. "Show them the cultural data," David said quietly to his aide. "If they're going to judge us, they should see all of us." His aide uploaded files to the Council database. Music from every human culture, art spanning thousands of years, literature, poetry, mathematical proofs, scientific discoveries, philosophy from every corner of Earth, medical advances, engineering marvels. The collected achievements of human civilization, offered as counterweight to footage of violence and danger. Yvonne reviewed the data silently, her crystalline form pulsing with soft light as she processed humanity's cultural output. Other council members accessed the files, experiencing human creativity for the first time. The juxtaposition was jarring. These same beings who hunted massive predators for recreation also created music of breathtaking beauty. These same beings who deliberately injured each other in sporting events also developed ethical frameworks centered on compassion and justice. They are contradictory, one council member observed. Violent yet peaceful. Aggressive yet cooperative. How can they be both? They had to be both, Henna realized suddenly, her scientific mind piecing together the evolutionary puzzle. Cooperation allowed them to survive on a world that would have killed isolated individuals. But aggression gave them the drive to push back against their environment. They learned to be fierce toward challenges but protective of their social groups. It is not a contradiction. It is an adaptation. Dren slammed an armored fist against his podium. Adaptation or not, they represent a threat to galactic stability. Their world has shaped them into natural warriors. They possess technology approaching interstellar capability. Within a generation, perhaps less, humans will spread beyond their solar system. What happens when these deathworlders discover our colonies? Our trade routes? Our civilians? The chamber erupted again, species dividing along predictable lines. Peaceful civilizations that had never known war feared what humanity represented. More aggressive species saw potential allies or rivals. Economic powers worried about what Earth's resources might do to established markets. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had fears. I propose quarantine, Dren announced, cutting through the noise. We establish a defensive perimeter around Earth's solar system. We prevent humans from developing faster than light travel. We contain them on their death world until we can properly assess the threat they represent. You propose imprisonment, Yevon countered. Punishing an entire species for the crime of evolving on a harsh world. The council was founded on principles of inclusion and cooperation. This quarantine violates everything we claim to represent. Better to violate our principles than risk our survival, Dren replied. Look at their military response to the Remnari rescue mission. They mobilized their entire planet within hours. They launched thousands of attack craft. They demonstrated coordinated defensive capabilities that suggest constant preparation for war. These are not peaceful beings we can safely integrate into galactic society. David had heard enough. He stood ignoring protocol that said human observers should remain silent. His voice carried across the chamber, translation systems ensuring every species heard his words in their native language. You judge us by standards we never knew existed, David said. You arrive at our world unannounced, try to evacuate our people against their will, and now condemn us for defending ourselves. Yes, we are products of a harsh world. Yes, we evolved to survive in conditions you find extreme, but we also evolved to cooperate, to create, to reach beyond ourselves toward something greater. You fear what we might become. We fear what you are deciding for us right now. Silence fell across the chamber. 43 species stared at the human representative, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not as a specimen or a threat, but as a thinking being, advocating for his people's future. The moment stretched, filled with weight that would shape decades to come. The vote will proceed tomorrow, Yevon announced. Quarantine or integration? Isolation or contact? Choose wisely, for this decision will define us as much as it defines humanity. David left the chamber knowing the vote would not go in humanity's favor. Too much fear, too much misunderstanding, too many species seeing humans as dangerous unknowns. Earth would need to make a choice soon. Accept quarantine peacefully or break free by force. Neither option promised anything but conflict. The Deathworlders had come to the galaxy's attention, and the galaxy did not know whether to welcome them or run. The vote passed by a slim margin, but passage was all that mattered. Earth would be quarantined until the Galactic Council determined humanity could safely join civilized space. Enforcement fleets from 6 different species assembled at jump points around the solar system, creating a blockade that would prevent any human vessel from leaving. The official statement called it protective custody. On Earth, people called it what it was, a cage. Senator Patricia Okoye addressed the United Earth Assembly from the floor of their new orbital headquarters. Built in just 3 weeks through unprecedented global cooperation, representatives from every nation watched as she delivered the Council's decision, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. They fear us, Patricia said simply. They look at humanity and see only threats, only danger, only violence. They refuse to see our capacity for growth, for change, for cooperation. The Council has given us two choices: accept permanent isolation or force our way into the galaxy and confirm every fear they hold about us. Below her, delegates argued in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate military action, others counseled patience and diplomacy. A few suggested accepting the quarantine, at least temporarily, while humanity developed better technology and understanding. Patricia let them debate, knowing the real decision had already been made in secret meetings between Earth's military leaders. Humanity would not accept the cage. In a construction facility hidden behind Jupiter's massive gravity well, engineers put final touches on humanity's first true interstellar vessel. They called it Horizon, a name chosen to represent breaking past boundaries that others tried to impose. The ship used hybrid technology, combining human innovation with principles learned from studying Remnari vessels during their brief visit. It would not match alien speed or efficiency, but it would travel faster than light, and that was enough. Reese Walker took command of Horizon with pride mixing with apprehension. The crew of 300 represented Earth's finest, volunteers who understood they might never return home. Their mission was simple in concept, impossible in execution. Break through the quarantine blockade, establish humanity's right to travel the stars, and do it without starting a war that would destroy Earth. "We're not looking for a fight," Admiral Liu had told Reese during her final briefing. "But we won't run from one either. Show them that humans can be reasoned with. Show them we're not the monsters they imagine. But if they force the issue, remind them why Earth breeds survivors." Nina Cross led Horizon's fighter wing, 12 craft equipped with the newest weapons Earth could design. The technology came from 3 months of frantic research, reverse engineering everything humans had learned from brief encounters with Remnari vessels. Human fighters still could not match alien performance, but they carried something alien forces lacked: pilots willing to push themselves and their machines to absolute limits. Horizon made its run toward the blockade on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. The vessel accelerated through the outer solar system, building velocity that would carry it past the enforcement fleet before they could react. Sensors detected 30 alien ships holding position at the jump point, representing 6 species unified in their determination to keep humanity contained. War leader Dren commanded the blockade from his flagship, a Haldren battlecruiser designed for planetary assault. He had argued for this assignment, believing firmly that humanity posed an existential threat to galactic civilization. When his sensors detected the approaching human vessel, he felt both vindication and grim anticipation. The Deathworlders would not accept their cage peacefully. Now everyone would see the violence he had warned about. "All vessels prepare to intercept," Dren ordered. "Disable their propulsion but avoid casualties if possible. We want them alive to stand trial for violating Council authority." Reese watched the alien fleet move to intercept, their formations precise and coordinated. Every tactical simulation Earth's best strategists could devise had predicted this moment. The question was whether aliens who had never fought humanity would adapt quickly enough when violence started. "All fighters launch," Reese commanded. "Horizon will continue toward the jump point. You keep their attention on you." Nina and her 11 squadron mates shot from Horizon's launch bay, immediately breaking into unpredictable patterns that human pilots called organized chaos. The maneuvers looked random to alien sensors, but each pilot knew exactly where their wingmates would be, trusting in reflexes honed through years of dangerous training. The alien vessels tried to track the fighters and found their targeting systems struggling. Humans pulled acceleration that should have rendered them unconscious, yanked their craft through turns that should have torn the vessels apart, pushed every system beyond theoretical limits because theoretical meant someone had survived it before. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," an alien tactical officer reported to Dren, confusion clear in his voice. "They fight like they've done it before," Dren corrected, studying the human tactics with growing respect. "This is not their first war. This is not even their first battle today." He was right. Human pilots had trained against each other in combat exercises that alien observers would have classified as actual warfare. Nina had logged 3,000 hours in simulators designed to kill pilots who made mistakes. Every member of her squadron had survived training that washed out 90% of candidates. They brought that experience to bear now, treating the alien blockade like another exercise where second place meant death. 2 Haldren interceptors moved to box in Nina's fighter. She waited until they committed to their attack vectors, then killed her forward velocity so suddenly that both aliens overshot. Her weapons fire caught one across its stern, disabling engines without destroying the craft. The other alien pilot tried to match her maneuver and blacked out from the sudden deceleration. His fighter drifted, unconscious pilot inside, while Nina moved on to the next target. Horizon pushed toward the jump point while fighters kept 30 alien vessels occupied. Reese knew they could not maintain this long. Knew eventually alien reinforcements would arrive or their own pilots would exhaust themselves. She needed to break through now. Needed to prove that humanity would not be contained regardless of the cost. Incoming transmission from the Haldren flagship, her communications officer reported. Dren's face appeared on screen, his armored features showing both anger and something that might have been admiration. He spoke through translators, his words measured and direct. "You prove my point about human aggression," Dren said. "Every action reinforces that humanity belongs behind walls. Stand down now and I promise fair treatment. Continue this attack and you doom your species to permanent isolation." Reese looked at the alien commander and saw someone who genuinely believed he was protecting the galaxy. She understood his perspective, even sympathized with it, but understanding did not mean acceptance. "You fear us because we survived what killed softer species," Reese replied. "You fear us because we refuse to accept limits others impose. You fear us because you look at humanity and see what your own species lost when you chose safety over challenge. We will not accept your cage, war leader. We will not be contained. We will take our place among the stars, with your permission or without it." She closed the channel and gave orders that would change everything. Horizon engaged its experimental jump drive, tearing open a hole in reality that led to somewhere beyond the blockade. The alien vessels tried to stop the jump and failed, their weapons unable to target something already half departed from normal space. Nina and her squadron covered Horizon's escape, their fighters dancing between alien ships that suddenly shifted from interdiction to capture. Dren gave orders to disable rather than destroy, still trying to avoid casualties that would make this situation worse. But human pilots did not make it easy, pushing their craft through maneuvers that seemed designed to dare death. Then Horizon disappeared, leaving only empty space where the human vessel had been. The fighters broke off their engagement, scattering in different directions to confuse pursuit. Nina's craft limped back toward the outer solar system, engines damaged but still functional, pilot conscious but battered. Dren stared at empty space and knew everything had changed. Humanity had rejected the quarantine. They had fought their way past his blockade. They had demonstrated both capability and determination. The Council would demand explanations. Some species would call for military action. Others would see this as proof humans deserved a chance. Either way, the Deathworlders had entered the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. Horizon emerged from jump space 3 light-years from Earth, far beyond any charted human exploration. Reese watched stars she had never seen fill her viewing screens and felt history settle onto her shoulders. Humanity had just taken its first step into the larger galaxy, and they had done it by breaking through a military blockade. The implications would echo for generations. "Status report," Reese ordered, pushing personal reflection aside for practical necessity. Her crew worked through system checks, finding minor damage from the experimental jump but nothing critical. Horizon remained operational, capable of either returning home or pressing forward. The choice should have been obvious. They had proven humanity could break quarantine. Now they should return and await diplomatic developments. But scouts detected something that changed everything. A distress signal, genuine and desperate, coming from a nearby system. Not human, not Remnary, something else entirely. The Palanth colony ship had suffered catastrophic drive failure 3 weeks earlier, stranding 15,000 civilians in a system with no habitable worlds. Their emergency beacon broadcast across all frequencies, begging for rescue before life support failed. Several Council species had detected the signal but turned away. The rescue would be too difficult, too dangerous. The Palanth would have to save themselves or face extinction. Reese studied the data and saw an opportunity that scared her with its implications. "How long do they have?" 4 days, maybe 5, her science officer replied. "After that, their systems will fail completely." They'll suffocate slowly, all 15,000 of them. Can we reach them in time? Yes, but the Council rescue protocols say we should leave this to authorized species. We're not even officially recognized as a spacefaring civilization. Reese made her decision in seconds. Set course for the Palanth ship. Full speed. If the galaxy thinks we're violent deathworlders, let's show them what deathworlders do when someone actually needs saving. The news reached the Galactic Council through official channels 6 hours later. Humanity had detected the Palanth distress signal and diverted to assist. Counselor Yevon listened to the report with conflicting emotions swirling through her crystalline form. The same species that had just broken through a military blockade was now rushing to rescue strangers. The contradiction forced her to reevaluate everything she thought she understood about humanity. Dren received the same news with immediate suspicion. It's a trick. They stage a rescue to gain political favor. They'll extract concessions from the Palanth, maybe even demand territory or resources as payment. But Henna, watching from her research station, felt hope kindle for the first time since the initial mission to Earth. Perhaps humans were more than their predatory evolution. Perhaps deathworlders could choose compassion even when violence would be easier. Horizon reached the Palanth colony ship ahead of schedule, pushing engines past rated limits because human engineers understood that safety margins were suggestions rather than absolutes. The Palanth vessel hung dead in space, its power systems failing, life support flickering. Inside, 15,000 beings waited for death that came slowly, degree by degree, as their ship lost its fight against entropy. Reese established communication with the Palanth captain, an elderly female named Cyril, whose face showed exhaustion that went beyond physical weariness. She had watched her people die for 3 weeks, unable to save them, unable to even ease their suffering. "Who are you?" Cyril asked, her voice carrying confusion alongside desperate hope. "Humans from Earth," Reese replied. "We're here to help. I've never heard of your species." "Are you with the Council?" "Not exactly. But that doesn't matter right now. We're going to get your people off that ship before it fails completely." Cyril wanted to believe but knew the mathematics made rescue impossible. "We have 15,000 civilians? Your vessel cannot possibly carry that many. Even if you ferry us in groups, we don't have time. Life support will fail before you complete more than a few trips. Then we'll make sure those trips count," Reese said. "Prepare your people for emergency evacuation. We're coming alongside." Horizon's crew worked with intensity that alien observers would later study as examples of coordinated human efficiency under pressure. Engineers rigged temporary life support pods using every spare container, cabin, and storage space. Medical teams prepared to treat hypothermia, oxygen deprivation, and panic. Nina's fighter squadron stripped their craft to minimum equipment, making room for refugees in spaces designed for weapons and fuel. The evacuation began with humanity demonstrating just how uncomfortable they could make themselves when necessary. Palanth civilians crowded into spaces rated for half their number. Human crew gave up their quarters, sleeping in shifts standing up or strapped to walls. The ship's gym became a dormitory housing 500. Cargo bays filled with refugees breathing air that grew steadily more stale as recyclers struggled to keep pace. "We're at 300% capacity," Horizon's first officer reported to Reese. "If we take on more, we risk life support failure across the entire ship." Reese looked at the Palanth vessel where thousands still waited. Math said they could not fit. Safety protocols said they should not try. But human history was full of people who succeeded by ignoring what math and safety said was impossible. "Keep loading," Reese ordered. "We'll make it work." Nina organized refugees in her fighter bay with the efficiency of someone used to chaos. Palanth families huddled together, their faces showing confusion about why these strange aliens would risk themselves for strangers. Nina offered water from her own supply, shared emergency rations, and tried to provide comfort in a language she barely spoke. "Why are you doing this?" a Palanth child asked through translators. "Your council left us to die." Nina knelt beside the child, meeting eyes that showed both fear and premature understanding of mortality. "The council might have left you. Humans don't. Where we come from, you don't abandon people just because saving them is difficult." 12 hours into the evacuation, the Palanth vessel finally died. Power failed completely, life support stopped, lights went dark. 5,000 civilians remained aboard, facing death in the cold and dark. Horizon's crew had worked themselves to exhaustion, pushed every system past breaking points, crammed refugees into spaces that should not fit anyone. They could not take more. Reese stood on her bridge staring at the dead ship doing math that refused to work. Then her chief engineer appeared, covered in grease and sweat, grinning with the expression humans wore when they had found a solution everyone else thought impossible. "We can extend our life support field to encompass both vessels," the engineer said. "It'll drain our reserves completely, leave us with maybe 8 hours of air once we engage jump drive. But we can keep everyone alive long enough to reach the nearest council station." "Do it," Reese ordered without hesitation. The desperate gamble worked. Horizon's life support envelope expanded to cover the dead Palanth ship, providing atmosphere and heat to 5,000 people who had resigned themselves to death. Then Horizon engaged its jump drive while carrying almost 5 times its rated capacity, pulling refugees and dead ship together through the fabric of space toward safety. They emerged at a council emergency station 4 hours later, their air almost gone, their systems failing, their crew unconscious from exhaustion. But all 15,000 Palanth civilians lived. Every single one survived because humanity had decided that following rules mattered less than saving lives. The news spread across the galaxy faster than even light-speed travel could manage. Images of Palanth refugees crying with gratitude as human crew collapsed from exhaustion. Stories of aliens crowded into impossible spaces, kept alive by deathworlders who pushed past every limit. Testimony from Cyril about humans who risked their own survival to save strangers they had never met. The narrative about humanity shifted in a single day. They were still dangerous, still violent, still products of a harsh world that bred them into warriors, but they were also capable of incredible compassion, of risking everything for beings they had no obligation to save, of choosing sacrifice over safety when lives hung in the balance. Dren watched the footage and felt his certainty crack. These were not the mindless predators he had feared. These were thinking beings who made conscious choices about when to fight and when to help. The realization forced him to question everything he had argued for in the council chambers. Yevon called for an emergency session, knowing the political landscape had just transformed completely. "We cannot quarantine a species that rescues our civilians while our own forces watch them die. We cannot cage beings who demonstrate such capacity for compassion. The vote must be reconsidered." David Sterling sat in the human delegation box, watching the council debate humanity's fate once more. This time, however, fear mixed with respect. This time, some species argued for integration not from idealism, but from recognition that humans deserved their chance. The Deathworlders had proven themselves in the most unexpected way possible. Not through conquest or intimidation, but through rescue and sacrifice. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. 3 months after the Palanth rescue, the Galactic Council formally recognized humanity as a spacefaring civilization with full rights to explore and settle beyond Earth's solar system. The vote passed overwhelmingly, with only 2 species abstaining and none voting against. Dren himself had cast his vote in favor, though he insisted on including provisions for monitoring human expansion and requiring conflict resolution training for all human vessels operating in Council space. Reese accepted the formal recognition on behalf of Earth, standing in the same council chamber where David Sterling had first advocated for humanity's freedom. Around her, representatives from dozens of species watched with emotions ranging from cautious optimism to lingering fear. She understood both perspectives. Humanity remained dangerous by galactic standards. Earth still bred survivors who could become warriors when circumstances required. But the past 3 months had taught everyone that danger and compassion could exist in the same species. "We accept the Council's terms," Reese said, her voice carried across the chamber by translators that had learned to process human speech patterns. "Humanity will operate under the same laws that govern all civilized species. We will respect territorial boundaries, honor trade agreements, and submit to dispute arbitration. We ask only what we offer in return: respect, fairness, and the opportunity to prove ourselves through our actions rather than your fears." The formal ceremony lasted for hours, following protocols developed over millennia of peaceful integration. But the real change happened in smaller moments, in individual interactions between humans and aliens who slowly learned to see each other as people, rather than stereotypes. Nina accepted promotion to lead Earth's first joint military training program. working with volunteers from 6 different species to develop combat doctrines that combined human aggression with alien technology. The training proved difficult for everyone involved. Human tactics emphasized speed and risk-taking that made alien commanders uncomfortable. Alien strategies relied on coordination and patience that frustrated human instincts. But slowly, painfully, they found common ground. "You have to stop thinking of victory as survival," Nina told a class of mixed-species pilots. "Sometimes the only way through a problem is straight at it. Sometimes caution kills you slower than action would have. Your people evolved on gentler worlds, so you never learned that lesson. We're here to teach you what Deathworlders understand instinctively. Fear is a suggestion, not a law." Hannah and her team established the Institute for Deathworld Studies on a space station orbiting Earth, creating the first research facility dedicated to understanding how harsh environments shaped evolution and culture. Scientists from across the galaxy applied for positions, eager to study humanity and the countless lessons their survival offered. The Institute became a bridge between human and alien understanding, translating biological differences into shared knowledge. "Humans are not unique," Hannah explained to a lecture hall full of students. "Other death worlds exist throughout the galaxy. Other species evolved under harsh conditions. But humanity represents the first death world species to reach the stars while retaining their aggressive adaptations. They show us what happens when survivors gain technology. They prove that danger and civilization are not mutually exclusive. They teach us that safety, pursued too completely, can be its own kind of death." David Sterling became Earth's first permanent ambassador to the Galactic Council, working from offices that overlooked the massive station where representatives from every member species debated policy and forged alliances. His days filled with negotiations over trade routes, technology exchange programs, and cultural integration policies. The work exhausted him, but he approached it with the same determination humans brought to every challenge. "We're making progress," David told Patricia during one of their regular communication sessions. "Slowly but definitely moving forward. Some species still fear us, others want to exploit us. But more and more are seeing us as potential partners rather than threats. Give it a generation, maybe 2, and humans will be as normal as any other council species." Patricia listened from her office in the Earth Assembly Building, looking out over a planet that had unified in ways previous generations thought impossible. The arrival of aliens had forced humanity to see itself as a single species, rather than competing nations. The threat of quarantine had made them work together with unprecedented efficiency. The acceptance into galactic civilization had given them common purpose and shared dreams. "What about the Haldren?" Patricia asked. "Dren voted for our integration, but his people still maintain military forces along our borders." "The Haldren are cautious," David replied. "Can't blame them for that. But Dren himself has become an unexpected ally. He understands what we are now. He's working to help other species overcome their fears while ensuring we don't abuse the chances we've been given." Dren would have been surprised to hear himself described as an ally, but accuracy forced him to acknowledge truth. He had opposed humanity initially, genuinely believing they posed existential danger to galactic peace. The Palanth rescue had not eliminated his concerns, but it had complicated them. Humans remained dangerous. But danger directed toward protection rather than conquest might be exactly what the galaxy needed. "I'm recommending the Council contract with human security forces for high-risk operations," Dren told Yevon during a private meeting. "We have dozens of situations where conditions exceed safety parameters for most species. Humans can operate in environments that would kill our personnel. They can take risks that our cultures will not allow. They can be what the galaxy needs them to be, specialists in the impossible." Yevon considered the proposal, recognizing both its wisdom and danger. "You would make humanity into our warriors, our enforcers. You would give them official license to exercise the violence you once feared." "I would give them purpose," Dren corrected. "Humans need challenge. Their culture dies without obstacles to overcome. Better they face sanctioned challenges than grow bored and create their own. Better we direct their aggression toward problems that need aggressive solutions." The proposal became policy within the year. Human contractors took jobs across the galaxy, working as security forces, rescue specialists, hazardous environment teams, and emergency responders. They operated in radiation zones that would kill other species within hours. They dove into toxic atmospheres wearing minimal protection, They fought fires on gas giants, performed repairs on crumbling stations, and recovered survivors from disaster sites that civilized species had already abandoned. Humans became the galaxy's specialists in impossible situations, and they excelled at the work. Their reputation grew from dangerous unknowns to reliable professionals who could be trusted with the worst jobs imaginable. Species that had voted for quarantine now competed to hire human teams. Worlds that had feared invasion now paid premium rates for human protection. 5 years after first contact, an alien child asked her parent why humans looked so strange compared to other species. The parent, a Remnari scholar, paused to consider how to explain something complex in terms a young mind could grasp. Humans come from a very difficult world, the parent said. While our ancestors evolved on gentle planets with abundant resources, humans had to fight for everything. Their world tried to kill them in countless ways. But instead of dying, they learned to fight back. They became strong where we remained fragile. They learned to take risks where we chose safety. And now they use that strength to help everyone, including us. Are they still dangerous? The child asked. Very dangerous, the parent replied honestly. But danger is not the same as evil. Humans choose how they use their strength. Most of them choose to help. That's what makes them our friends instead of our enemies. Reese heard that story during a diplomatic reception and felt tears threaten behind her professional composure. 5 years ago, the galaxy had tried to cage humanity. Now alien children learned about humans as heroes rather than monsters. The transformation seemed impossible, yet here they stood, living proof that understanding could overcome fear. That night, alone in her quarters aboard the station that served as humanity's primary gateway to galactic civilization, Reese composed a message to Earth. She wrote about the progress they had made, the alliances they had forged, the respect they had earned. She described a future where human children would grow up traveling between stars, learning alien languages, building friendships across species barriers that once seemed absolute. But she also warned about complacency. Humanity's acceptance remained conditional, dependent on continued good behavior and careful navigation of galactic politics. One major incident, one moment of unchecked aggression could destroy everything they had built. Humans would need to remain vigilant about their own nature, conscious of the predatory instincts that still lurked beneath civilized behavior. We sent the wrong SOS, Reese wrote, referencing the probe that had started everything. We never meant to call for rescue, but maybe the galaxy needed to meet us anyway. Maybe we needed them to see us as victims first, so they could later recognize us as partners. The misunderstanding nearly destroyed us. Instead, it gave us the stars. She sent the message and looked out her window at Earth, visible as a blue marble in the distance. Humanity had earned its place among the civilizations that filled the galaxy with life and purpose. The Deathworlders had come to the stars, bringing their violence and compassion, their aggression and mercy, their danger and hope. The galaxy would never be the same. Neither would humanity. And that, Reese thought, was exactly how it should be. Years later, when new species were discovered and integrated into galactic civilization, the process always included a presentation about humanity, about Deathworlders who evolved on an impossible planet, about survivors who became protectors, about the species that arrived not through invitation, but through breaking free from a cage others built for them. The story served as reminder and warning, lesson and inspiration. It taught that fear could be overcome through understanding, that danger properly directed became strength, that species shaped by harsh worlds might be exactly what gentle civilizations needed to survive in a universe that remained hostile even after millennia of peaceful expansion. They had sent the wrong SOS, but in the end everyone answered anyway, and the galaxy was better for it.